Morning, students. So we're going back to a lecture again today. I hope you had a fun class yesterday with the games that we did. Now, some of you already feel really comfortable with this topic, and that's great. I'm really glad if you do. I do hope you watch the video anyway, because there's some review stuff that maybe you've forgotten about, and it's important that you remember how to do it, okay? So we're focused on decimals specifically for grade 5s, and then we're going to discuss decimals and how they relate to percents with grade 6s. All right, so grade 5s, decimals and 6s. This is for both of you. Don't skip this. Decimals, remember, are always less than 1. Okay? So, for example, this is smaller than 1. Okay? In fact, it's specifically 1/10 of a 1. That's what we call this. This is tenths. All of these are tenths. But if we were to write that as a fraction, it would be 1/10, 1/10, or 9/10. 9/10. See that? Okay. The tenths is always right beside the decimal. Okay. So we have a decimal. Let me actually change colors. We have a decimal right here, and this number is tenths. Okay, beside the decimal, and this number here, if you remember correctly, is ones. All right. Hundredths are really similar, but they look like this. Okay, so a hundredth is always 2 away. That's the spot from the decimal. So what's here? Of course, you know that already. That's tenths, isn't it? Because we discussed it up above. All right. So the way we write that as a fraction is we would write this as 1/100, because this place is the hundreds place. It's really simple. It's straightforward. It's kind of obvious, right? So then this is 9/100ths. Now, what do you do if you have something like this, where you got 0.12? Well, then it's 12/100ths. It's not, or it's 1/10 and 2/100ths. Okay? See that? See how that is? There's 1 in the tenths place and 2 in the hundreds. But this is what we actually want you to write. We want you to write 12/100ths. Okay? Now, I've already done some of this conversion here, so let's do some other examples. What if you actually have a 3.1? Well, if you want to make that a fraction, this part is still 1/10. Let's actually not do 1. Let's make it a different number, let's make this a 4. That's 4/10. That makes sense, doesn't it? 4 out of 10. But what do I do with this number right here, this whole 1? Well, we just leave it as a whole 1. You see how I write it as a big number beside? So it's 3 whole numbers and then 4/10, because this is 4 out of 10. Okay, let's do another example of this. Let's say I have 21.07. Well, we've got, this is my whole numbers, so I just write 21 as whole numbers. It's not part of a fraction, it's just whole. And then I've got 7, and in this case, it's over 100 because it's 7/100ths. This is the, remember, hundredths place. And we've done this before. This is review, so you should be able to remember this. You should be okay with this, okay? So then, what if I have something like this? So let's say, let me change colors so it stands out a little bit. Let's say I have 4.94. Well, again, 4 wholes, and now I've got 94/100. Okay, so remember, this follows the same rule as up here, where you could write 9/10 and 4/100, but we don't really want to write that way. That is correct, and there is actually a question in your work that asks you to do that, but that's a complicated way of writing it. I want to write it in a simple way, so I write it this way right here, 94/100. Okay, always remember, everything on this side is whole numbers, and everything on this side is pieces. Okay, and the whole number is the most important part of this. You always have to know how many whole numbers you have. Okay, now let's actually go the other way. Now let's convert the other way. What if I have a fraction and I want to make a decimal? So let's say I have 7/10, like that. That's really easy, 0.7, because this is my tenths place, right? Let's say I have 21/100ths. Really easy, 0.21. I have to end on the hundreds, tenths, hundredths, like that. Okay, if you don't forget this, that's fine. Come back, watch the video again, no problem. Okay, let's say I have 3 wholes and 1/100th. Ooh, this one's a bit tricky. 3 wholes, I know. I write the 3 and then I write the decimal. But now I have hundredths. I know that this spot is tenths and this spot is hundredths. So I want 1/100th, which means, uh-oh, I have to put a 0 in there. That would be my decimal. Okay, let's say I have 10 and 20 hundredths. So again, I write my 10 wholes and then I write my decimal. That's always important, that whole versus that piece section. And then again, I've got hundredths. So this is hundredths. I have the number 20, so I write the number 20. I have 10 wholes and 20 hundredths. Okay? Really, really simple. And of course, those of you who are remembering, you know that this 0 doesn't change the value of the number because it's not part of a sandwich. So I would actually finish writing it like that, okay? Now, decimals in the relationship to the number 1. This is really valuable, okay? So we have a line here, and this is 0, and this is 1 here, okay? Now, because we're dealing with decimals, we always have 10 on the bottom, right? That's the key about our decimal. It's either 10 on the bottom or 100 on the bottom. So in this case, we're going to want to divide this line into 10 pieces. So there we go. That's pretty good. Those divisions, yeah. All right, we've got 10 pieces now. And why do I make this little center line really important? Because it's always good to remember half. So half is 0.5. 0.5. Okay, so now let's say if I wanted to know what this is, well, that's 0.2, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That gets us there, but we're not going to 10. So we're going 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and then we get to 1. It's the same thing, but we're just doing a point. So that's 0.2. So then this is 0.7. That's really not that tricky. But what if I want to know what that is? Right there. That's where it gets a little bit trickier, because I know that it's 0.2 something, but what is it? Well, this is 0.2 and this is 0.3. What's halfway between those? 0.25. 0.25. Okay, well, in this case, it actually doesn't look quite halfway, does it? So it's probably more like 0.4 maybe. Okay, because in between those, we again divide into 10 pieces. See that? Just like that. Again, we divide into 10 pieces between those two numbers. And so again, we have to go to the thing, to the making it smaller, finding the spot. And the thing is, and it's really, really easy to forget this, and this is where we go into our ordering decimals. It's really easy to forget that 0.24 is smaller than 0.3. This one is smaller. And the reason for that is when we do normal finding numbers, we always look at how many digits a number has. So 21 is obviously smaller than 210, right? Because this has 2 digits and this has 3 digits. But once we get to decimals and we're on this side of the thing, this side we treat the same as always. The whole numbers we always treat them the same no matter what. But when we're talking about the right side, the decimal side, the number of digits isn't as important as what our first number, our number closest to the decimal. Okay? This number is a 2, it's close to the decimal. This is a 3, that's close to the decimal. Well, 3 is bigger than 2, and since 3 is close to the decimal here and 2 is close to the decimal there, 3 has to be bigger. 0.3 has to be bigger. The number that's closer to the decimal is more important. Okay? Now, that isn't true, of course, here, but in this, it's always true. Okay? So keep that in mind. It's really, really, really important. 0.03 and 0.3. Which number is bigger? Well, in this case, we've got a 0 right beside the decimal. We've got a 3 right beside the decimal. So this number is bigger because 3 is more than 0, even though this number has 3 digits and that number only has 2 digits. Okay? What about something like this? Which of these numbers is bigger? Well, now we look again. 2 and 2 are the same, so we don't have to worry about those. 1 and 1 are the same, we don't have to worry about them. Now we've got a 4 and we've got a 0. 4 is bigger, so this number is the bigger number. All right. So that's what we mean by ordering decimals. Okay, now some money stuff for the grade 5s. This is just a reminder for you. This is really important. You have a bunch of different coins. The big one, the one that's called a quarter, is worth 25 cents. But you write that as a decimal like this. Just take out your notepad right now, pause the video, write this down. You're going to need it for your work, okay? I'm not teaching you money right now. Just understand that a quarter, it's the one that has the moose on it. I don't know, something. It's a moose. It's the money when you write it out looks like this. That's how much 1 is, okay? Then you have a dime, and it's got a sailing boat on it. It's really small. It's called a dime. It's worth 10 cents, but if you write it out in decimal form, that's what it looks like. And remember, for money, you always have 2 decimal places, okay? That's why there's a 0 there. Then you have something called a nickel, which has a beaver on it. It's like looks a bit like a rat, all right? That's worth 5 cents. When you write it out in money form, it looks like that, 1. That's how much 1 is worth, okay? And then you got the final one, which is a penny, which has a lady's head on it on one side and a maple leaf on the other. I should actually have done the maple leaf. It has a maple leaf. Okay, it's called a penny. It's worth 1 cent, and when you write it out like this, we are actually going to talk about money fairly soon, but this work came up before we talked about money. It doesn't matter. You now know what to do. You know that you wrote this in your notebook now. I hope you've paused the video. Pause. Write this. Write it down. Now you have this as a reference, and you can use this for the couple of money questions you have in your work. Okay? All right. I'm going to come back to this section here for the grade 6s, but just very briefly, I'm going to look at the grade 5 work here. So you go here. In this place, you have a decimal, so you write the fraction, and vice versa. This isn't complicated. Here you write decimals. Here you write fractions. Here you're putting the numbers on a number line. Okay? They've told you that this is 0.3. Okay? And I'm going to help you with this one. 0.33. This one here is 0.4. We know that from counting. So 0.33 is going to be in between them. 0.33 is going to be somewhere close to there. It's not perfect. I'll try and be a little more perfect on it. But 0.33 is going to be somewhere here-ish. Okay? 0.33. Because we have 3, and then remember this section is divided into 10 pieces again. Right? 0.33. Okay, now this one here, you just have to put numbers in order from the greatest to least. You can see all of them have 0 in the ones place, so you don't have to worry about that. So the very next thing you have to look at is the tenths place. Tenths with a th. Okay, so you got to get that done. And then just continue on these. These ones here, they're all 1. Here, though, you're ordering again, but some of them have 5 in the ones place, and some of them have 0 in the ones place. So the ones with 5 are obviously bigger than the ones with 0 in the ones place. This is where the money stuff comes in, okay? This is where the money cents comes in. So I have 5 cents. I already told you how to write 5 cents. I have 3 quarters. Well, 1 quarter is worth 25 cents. So how much money do I have if I have 3 of them? Okay? Here, just write true or false, whether they're equal or not equal. And then here at the bottom, they want you to write complete the expanded form using decimals. So they want you to turn this expanded form into decimals, okay? So I will do this one for you to help you out, okay? It's 3 wholes, it's 5 tenths, and it's 7 hundredths. So that's your answer, really simple. So that's your work for today, pages 6 and 7, called Introducing Decimals. Now, you do not have this in your workbook. I have posted images of this on Google Classroom. So you are going to have to go onto Google Classroom to get this work. Now, the easiest way to do this is to open the picture on your computer, take a screenshot, write on your screenshot, and then send me your written answers. But if you can't do that, then what I expect you to do is I expect you to have a blank page. I expect you to write the number 1, So we go over here, we look, oh, 1 is this chart. So on your blank page, you're going to make yourself a chart like this. You're going to write decimals. You're going to write fractions. And then you're going to fill in the chart. So you're going to write from your book onto this piece of paper, okay? You are also going to make sure that you give a proper title. So you're going to call this Introducing Decimals, okay? And you're going to go page 6. Then when question 1 is done, now you're going to go to question 2. You're going to look at question number 2. You're going to write out this number line. So you're going to, on your piece of paper, you're going to do a number line. You are going to get a ruler or a straight. You are not going to go like this. That's not the way you're going to do this number line. You are going to make sure that your number line has all of the lines on it at an equal distance apart. That's a really neat number line. Got it? And you're just going to continue that for every single one of your questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, didn't make it quite long enough. There we go, 10. You're going to do this for every one of your questions. You're going to write it out, and then you're going to post a pic. Okay, pages 6 and 7. If you can, use this and write on it just like I've been doing in my lessons. You know how I've been writing? If you can, but if you can't do that, then you write on a clean piece of paper. Okay. All right, now, grade 6's, the specific part is just for you, ordering decimals, fractions, and percents. So let's say you've got something like this, 0.15, 20%, and 1/4, okay? And I want you to put those in order from least to greatest. Now, some of you have already stopped watching, but those of you who have been watching, I repeat these instructions like 50 million times, and I still have students who don't bother to do this. So maybe you'll be my first class who does this right. In order to compare these, they have to be the same. So let's pick something. Let's make percent the thing we pick. So this is already percents. Yay. 0.15, that's 15%. You know that. 1/4, ooh, we have to have it out of 100, don't we? So that's times 25 times 25. So this is 25%. There we go. Now we can compare. We've got 15%, 20%, and 25%. But when you write the answers in your book, you do not write you don't write 15% for this. You write 0.5 because that's the number that they gave you. Okay? Then you write 20%. So we do that like that. Now, here's another example. Let's say you had 3/4. You had 0.73, and you had 98%. Okay? Now again, the first thing we have to do is make everything in common. So let's make everything percents because it's easier. This is 73%, that's super easy. And I actually know this is 75% because this is 100 times 25, it gives me 75, okay? Now I'm gonna put these in order again from least to greatest. So 0.73, not 73%, it is 73%, but I want you to write 0.73. Then you're gonna write 3/4, and then you're gonna write 98%. Okay. So let me just look at your work with you very quickly. There's not a lot to do here. You have this work in your workbook, okay? In your homeschool book, you're going to be doing pages 18 and 19 for today. Here, you're just converting to fraction and then percent. So the reason I want you to convert to fraction is because, of course, you need 100 on the bottom. How did we get 100? Well, we times by 10, didn't we? So we're going to times the top by 10. We get 70%. Okay, so that's really simple. You already know how to do this. This is backwards. This is the other way. So we go 50 over 100, but that's not in simplest form. So we're going to turn that into 1/2. And that's my final answer. This is correct. If you stop here, you'll get partial marks, but you don't want partial marks. You want all of the marks, right? Okay, write each fraction as a decimal. This is actually very similar to what you did before. It's just they're asking you to do all in one step, what before they gave you space to do. So here for this one, you have 1/5, right? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to find out what the percent is. So you have to do 100, and remember this is times 20, right? Times 20. So this is 20 over 100, which means you have 20%, which means you have 0.2. And so that's what you write here. You write 0.2 because they want to know what your decimal is, okay? So each of these, you actually have to do some work to solve them, okay? And then this is the same thing, it's backwards. This is a fraction. We already saw this in class. Then you make it in simplest form. This one here, they both divide by 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. 65 divided by 5 is 13. So there we go. And that doesn't get any smaller. And then you already know how to do ratios, fractions, decimals, and percents. You know all of that, so you just have to go back and forth between all of them to figure out what it is. So turn your your percent into a decimal, then turn your decimal into a fraction, then turn your fraction into a ratio. Remember, ratios and fractions are exactly the same thing, okay? You shouldn't have any trouble filling this out, but if you do, contact me, I'll give you some more assistance, but I'd like to see you try and solve this on your own. All right, this other work here, that's not for today. You're just doing 18 and 19 today. All right, thanks.